All right, everybody, welcome.
I wanted.
You want to be on the Bible study too?
Yeah.
Okay, we're at John chapter 9 tonight. John chapter 9. This is another page turner as always. So here we go.
Okay.
Verse 1. Now, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Because in these times, a lot of times, if you were born with a handicap of any sort, they would either say it was your fault that you sinned in the womb, as in the case of Esau and his brother, or that your parents had sinned, or even that their parents or their parents had sinned. Like that, it could be generational, that they said that you could be afflicted with something. So Jesus answered, verse 3, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. So the reason Jesus is giving it, it's like they didn't sin, and it has nothing to do with them sinning. The fact is that he was born blind, that the works of God should be revealed in him, in Jesus being able to bring his sight back. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So Jesus is saying he's only going to be on the earth for a short time. And while he's there, he's going to do as much work as he can do while he's there, as many miracles as he can do. And he is the light of the world. And he's saying the night is coming where no one can work. And he's referring, I believe, to the crucifixion, to when they attempt to snuff his light out. But we all know that that is impossible, because 3 days later, he was rose from the grave. Verse 6, when he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva. And he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which is translated sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Therefore, the neighbors and those who previously had seen that he was blind said, is not this who sat and begged? So they just are incredulous. They cannot believe that this man who from his birth was blind, that he was begging since he was a child, that he could all of a sudden see. Some said, this is he. Others said, he is like him. So you have people that are doubting, obviously. And he said, I am he. Therefore they said to him, how were your eyes opened? He answered and said, a man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and I received sight. Then they said to him, where is he? He said, I do not know. So a commentator that I was listening to today was talking about this story, and he parallels this blind man with anybody who does not have faith, anyone who does not believe in Jesus Christ as our Savior. They're blind. And in his blindness, he didn't know what he was missing. That's all he ever knew, was being blind. And in the same way, people who don't believe, they don't know what they're missing. They have no idea that we have all this fantastic comfort in our Savior, that we can talk to him directly, that we can read his word. They have no clue, and they're just as blind as this blind man was. And so he brought sight to this blind man in the same way that he can bring spiritual sight to people who don't believe, if they just open their hearts. So they said to him, where is he? And he said, I do not know. Verse 13, they brought him who formerly was blind to the Pharisees. So of course, we have the Pharisees involved, and anytime the Pharisees are involved, you know that they're trying to throw shade on Jesus and make him look bad, right? And do anything they can because they're against him. Now, it was a Sabbath when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also asked him again how he received his sight. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and I see." Therefore, some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God because he does not keep the Sabbath." And of course, that was their big beef the entire time. That he was working on the Sabbath, he was healing on the Sabbath, he was doing the works of God on the Sabbath, and they just were so hateful and so against him that anything that they could get to throw on him and make him look guilty, they would. Others said, "How can a man who is a sinner do such signs?" And there was division among them. Because obviously you have people here who believed in him and they knew only a man of great faith could do what he just did. Verse 17, they said to the blind man again, "What do you say about him? Because he opened your eyes." And he said, "He is a prophet." Verse 18, but the Jews did not believe concerning him that he had been blind and received his sight until they called the parents of him who received his sight. And they asked them, saying, "Is this your son who you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered them and said, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but by what means he now sees, we do not know, or who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is of age. Ask him. He will speak for himself." His parents said these things because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone confessed that he was Christ, he would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore, his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." So even though the parents, who must have been just so happy that their son could finally see, and they must have been very grateful to Jesus, but they were so scared of being kicked out of the synagogue that they were very like, I don't know what, you're gonna have to ask him, so they were like very like standoffish about it all. Verse 24, so they again called the man who was blind and said to him, "Give God the glory. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered and said, "Whether he is a sinner or not, I do not know. One thing I know, that though I was blind, now I see." And they said to him again, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" So here you have this fellow who his sight was restored. He knows who Jesus is. And he's like, he's getting impatient with these guys that are clearly not hearing what he's saying. And he's like, he's kind of mocking them. "So do you also want to become his disciples?" Verse 28, then they reviled him and said, "You are his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. We know that God spoke to Moses. As for this fellow, we do not know where he is from." The man answered and said to them, "Why, this is a marvelous thing that you do not know where he is from. Yet he opened my eyes. Now we know that God does not hear sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, he hears him. Since the world began, it has been unheard of that anyone opened the eyes of one who was born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." So the blind man has this beautiful testimony, and he has this message that everybody here can learn from. He's telling us that we are worshipers of God and that he hears us if we are not living in sin, if we are living the lives that we're supposed to live, and we are praying to our Father He hears us, and miracles can happen through him and through our belief. And he's telling us that this is the only time into history up to this point that somebody who was born blind had their sight restored. So this wasn't just a run of the mill. Somebody could see and then was blind, and then Jesus made them see again. Like people could think, well, maybe their sight was restored. This was like an unheard of miracle. This is like, just had everybody like, whoa. So again, he says, if this man were not from God, he could do nothing. And that's true of everybody. If you are not from God, if you are not following God, you're not going to go very far in life. 34. They answered and said to him, you were completely born in sins, and are you teaching us? And they cast him out. So they're hateful, they're jealous, they don't want to hear it because their whole purpose in life is against Jesus. Verse 35. And
I think it's interesting that they said, you are a disciple of Jesus, but we are disciple of Moses. And who was on the mountain with Jesus
in the
at the Mount of Transfiguration.
Yeah.
And it was Moses and Elijah. So Moses was also a follower of Jesus, clearly.
And Elijah. And anybody else who's with Verse 35. Jesus heard that they cast him out. And when he found him, he said to him, do you believe in the Son of God? He answered and said, who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him? And Jesus said to him, you have both seen him, and it is he who is talking with you. Then he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. And Jesus said, for judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may be made blind. Then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, are we blind also? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remains. So he's calling them out because they're claiming to know everything. And he's like, you say you know everything, you really know nothing, and wow, when he said, it is he who you're talking with. And can you just picture how this formerly blind man must have felt to be in the presence of our Savior and realize it was the Messiah who restored his sight. And just to know that he was talking to him, how just, wow. And then you still have these naysayers, these Pharisees on the side still casting shade the whole time. But wow, what a powerful and beautiful chapter with so many parallels to the blindness of people that have no faith. Crazy stuff. Okay, guys, what say you, Pastor Tom?
What say you, Pastor Tom?
I like the way it opens up, and the disciples ask him, why is this man blind? Is it because of his parents or his grandparents' sin? And Jesus said, no, he's blind because of this moment in which he will glorify God. And he has for at least 2,000 years, hasn't he? This has been read over and over and over to show what dummies the Pharisees were. And how Jesus was truly God. And I like that, this question comes up all the time. Why is so-and-so sick? Why is so-and-so afflicted? And oftentimes the person will have some sort of an affliction, and they will stand against that affliction with God, or God will stand with them. And they will be such an inspiration to us all, like somebody like, I don't know, Zoan, who has been afflicted in a way, and yet she is just this beautiful. Her spirit is so wonderful and amazing, and she just glorifies God all the time. And so I think that there's a lot of things like that in this world, and we maybe don't understand it because there's a lot of pain for the person who's having to endure all that. but they just stand against affliction and just come through it with flying colors, and they give credit to God, and it's just that's what I like about this chapter, probably more than anything. I mean, the Pharisees are just they're way off track, always have been, always will. No surprise there. But I think we learned something here about affliction.
Yes. Absolutely. Powerful chapter. Bill?
Well, Tom did that so perfect that he covered everything that on that verse 25. That is fantastic. That the blind man, he wasn't afraid to tell about that he'd been cured, and he wasn't afraid. He didn't know how or why it happened. It's so interesting because he says, you don't need to know all the answers in order to share Christ with others. And it's important to tell them how it has changed your life. Then trust that God will use your words to help others believe in him too. So that blind man, he wasn't afraid to tell the truth. And that was pretty special. It was wonderful.
Yes. Excellent.
You might not have all the answers, but you were saved. That's really good.
Good stuff. Anyone else? Lou, Luann?
No, that. Those are the 2 points that I was most impressed with.
Definitely. Powerful stuff. I love it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And then, of course, Pastor Tom most made me cry. Thank you.
Oh, I hope there are tears of joy.
Yes. Yes.
You're my hero, Zoanne. I don't know if I told you that before, but
Oh, thank you. I'm just grateful that we made it through the corona. Oh my God.
yeah.
Me too.